Hi, welcome to the zoo. We're your hosts, Caitlin.
And Josh Zuniga.
Okay, first episode, super exciting. So to kind of give you guys a overview of what we're planning on talking about, Josh and I have talked about kind of going a few different directions since Josh has more of a entrepreneur background. I think we'll definitely touch on entrepreneurship, parenting, marriage, relationships, and just kind of being a millennial in 2024. And I'm sure we'll have some fun, sprinkled in there, like pop culture shows we're watching. Our hope is to have, more couples on with us.
Yeah.
The first couple episodes, I think we're going to have just us. But as we grow and we have lots of, ideas of people that we would love to talk to and interview. I don't know. I would say one of my passions is definitely like just getting to know people. And I would say you like that too. We both
Yeah, I do.
can be personal and personable. And anyway, so we have a lot of exciting plans for the podcast. Josh and I have just really felt like this is something that we would thrive at and really enjoy. So we hope that we can, I don't know, just...
This is going to be cool. I think that something that you're really good at is opening up to people and letting people in. And like that's something that you're super good at, whereas I'm probably more reserved and it's not as easy for me, which is probably surprising to people considering I'm in the door-to-door sales space. But
you're the extroverted introvert, and I'm definitely the introvert. Or sorry, the extrovert.
you're the extroverted extrovert.
Extroverted, that's what I meant. Extrovert, yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, just funny.
But yeah, and I don't really know why that is. I think that I've been told sometimes that I can come across intimidating or like not as easy to get to know. It's definitely not intentional.
You have,
on
you
my
have
end.
RBF sometimes.
It's just my face. Like I can't. I didn't make it that way. It's just that way.
Yeah.
But I think that for me, this is definitely a part of like letting people see who I am, and hopefully we can add value to people's lives. I know I have a lot to add when it comes to entrepreneurship, leadership, just experiences on that front, on like the sales and business side. And you're just a lot of fun to talk to, and everybody that talks to you or gets to know you loves you. So
Nice.
I think it's going to be a really fun dynamic. Okay, so something that for me, I honestly have a really hard time kind of doing. I don't really enjoy talking about myself. I feel kind of weird about it. But I do think it's important that people get to know us and what makes our dynamic a little bit unique. So what I thought would be fun would be to kind of go over these last couple of years that we've been together, tell a little bit about our stories, how we met, what our life's been like, and why the name Welcome to the Zoo really fits in with our lifestyle, because it's honestly been kind of crazy from even before day one. So we wrote out some stuff. So some cool stuff. So to talk about me, right before I met Caitlin, this whole year before, I went through like a really kind of transformative year. And it began with me really kind of in a dark point. At that point, I kind of like let myself go in a lot of ways with like my fitness and mental health. I had gotten engaged that year. Things didn't work out, which I have some funny stories about that later on as to why that didn't work out. And I'm really glad in hindsight that it didn't, because it wouldn't have gone well. But I was feeling pretty low. So I went through this period where I really tried to work on myself. It was like a season, like all fall and all winter. And I went into that, learned a lot of lessons about myself, about self-discipline and what I can do and how my best efforts are enough, which is something I hadn't really internalized in my life up until that point.
Yeah.
I took that, applied it to my work, and I went from, and this is the part where if you're not into door-to-door sales, it might not make sense. But prior to that, like the first 6-7 years of my my journey, I'd sold anywhere from 200 to 400 accounts.
And just tell
each year.
everyone what industry and everything too.
Oh, pest control.
Yep.
So door-to-door sales and pest control. I would go out, knock doors, try to sell annual pest control contracts. And I would say at 200 to 400, you're slightly above average. But I knew that I hadn't given my best efforts, really, at anything in my life up to that point. And I don't think that I'm unique in that. I think a lot of people could probably relate to that, whether it's with work or life or anything. But
Yeah.
I decided to spend the months of March through October trying to push myself as hard as I possibly could. During that time, I learned a lot about myself. It wasn't like this continuous process of me just doing good all the time, but I sold 1,500 pest control contracts and pretty much did 5 times more than what I normally do.
Yeah.
I broke the industry record at the time, which was 1,200 accounts, set the bar for the most pest control contracts ever sold in a year, and really found like a lot of happiness and fulfillment in who I was as a person. I really learned to disconnect that happiness from like outward results, like focusing just on my inputs and letting the outputs kind of fall where they may. Like if I do my best, sales will come, or kind of things like that. But anyways, shortly after that, I came home, started going on dates with other girls, met Caitlin.
Hit up all the dating apps.
Yep, I hit up all the dating apps.
Yep.
As soon as I met Caitlin, I knew that it was going to be all gas, no brakes. I'm just going to keep asking this girl on dates over and over
Why
again.
did you feel that way?
Until she tells me no. So I did do a little bit of Instagram stalking once we matched on some dating apps.
Yeah.
So
that
I
was
just wanted
honestly
to see.
kind of embarrassing. But
I just kind of wanted to see what this girl was about. So you had these like stories, these highlight reels saved. One of them, I watched all of them. This probably makes me sound like a creep, but one of them was titled "She Cray," and you like showed your silly and fun side. So I knew not only were you smoking hot, but you were also hilarious, fun, silly, and a good person.
I'm just glad that that's what you thought instead of thinking I was a psycho.
I did.
Yeah.
I did think you were crazy.
Yeah.
But I was like, you know what? This person's crazy can match with my crazy. And so
Yep.
I went into it thinking, yeah, I'm just gonna ask this girl on a date. Let's see what happens. And then I liked you after the first date. And then she made me wait a whole week, like a week and a half before I got to see her again. But
And
there's
it's
more.
funny because I don't even remember doing that.
Yeah, she was playing games.
Yeah.
She was playing games. She probably didn't realize it, maybe like subconsciously. But
Yeah.
the cool thing about our story is that both me and Caitlin both went through some really hard things right before we met each other.
Yep.
And we had just come out on the other end of that right as we met. And so I think that's something that's a little bit different about our story, and we can talk more about it. But I feel like you and I were both probably in the healthiest places we've ever been in our lives
Yeah.
right
Definitely.
before we met each other.
Yep. Yeah, I do think I was just listening to someone's TikTok about this, and there's a Taylor Swift song called the invisible string. Have you ever heard that term though, invisible string?
No.
No.
But I can guess what it means.
Yeah, just there was a girl talking about how we're all connected, in different ways. Like maybe we saw each other in passing. I don't even think I don't know if our paths would have ever crossed. I just obviously think it was God's divine intervention that at that opportune time, like you said, we had gone through certain things. It kind of led up to that point for us to meet, and it was God's timing, but it was also perfect timing. And I don't know. I just always felt like we were supposed to meet each other at that specific time, and it just worked out so seamlessly. And so the interesting part about it is anyone who, I'll just say first, because you hadn't said, but you're from Washington State. I'm from Utah. We're both the same age, born in 1991. And I would say, correct me if I'm wrong, but we felt like we were getting married older. like, but really in the world standards, it was pretty normal, I would say. But Utah culture, I guess, we
Yeah.
both kind of felt like maybe I felt like the old maid in a way, and you were probably feeling like,
I felt like the rogue bachelor.
yeah, you're like, when is it gonna happen? So anyway, I had grown up in Utah, traveled a lot, graduated from University of Utah, did a lot of dating, and ended up going on an LDS mission at 26. And it was pretty old, like I would say, for most girls to go. I mean, I know the church had changed the age for girls to go younger. Anyway, and so I was kind of nervous because I was thinking I'm going to be with a lot of 19-year-olds, some even 18-year-olds at my age. And I was just thinking, how is this going to go? But same thing, it was God's plan and timing in my life to go at that time. And wouldn't have changed it for the world. So I went at that age. It was totally fine. I was kind of like the older sister, but at the time I didn't really feel like that because I have always kind of gotten along with younger people anyway. And
Did you say where you went?
Oh, sorry. I served in Cambodia in Southeast Asia. And so it was a crazy mission call for sure. I had been to Thailand with actually a group called Help International. I don't know if they're still, I feel like they're still sending people, but they're based out of Provo. So I'd been to Thailand, fell in love with Southeast Asia. And so actually a few of my family members really thought there was a chance I could go to Asia because of that. And lo and behold, Asia, I was pretty scared because of the language. But anyway, fell in love with it. It was one of the best things I've ever done. One of the hardest things I've ever done. Kind of like what you were saying with the 1,500 accounts. You had gone through something really tough. And up to that point, that's the hardest thing that I've ever gone through. I was just completely on my own learning this crazy language and riding a bike in a dress. Like it was intense. And, humidity and yeah. So anyway, get home. It was August 2019 and right before the pandemic and everything. So we both, were back in Utah because you would leave for the summers and go sell and then come back to Utah to date, right? Yeah. So you had hopped on the dating apps. I hopped on the dating apps. We ended up matching, I think, on Hinge and then the LDS one, Mutual.
Yeah.
And then I remembered seeing you, I don't know, on something else as well. I don't know. I think maybe you had slid into my DMs as well. So it was like all these different, I feel like God was trying to match us up from like Instagram to all these apps. And then, I just remember talking to you and, I was excited to go out and it really did feel like a blind date. But at that point, I had no idea about the industry, like door-to-door industry. Like, yes, I had heard about kind of like the bros of Utah that go on missions and they end up selling because they're really good at, I don't know, just talking about Jesus. And they're like, hey, let's try this pest control thing out. And so I kind of knew about it, but I didn't know like the 1,500 accounts, what that really meant, I guess. I did know you were, I imagined you were a baller because you showed up in this massive truck. It was like the Black Widow edition.
It was a lifted F-250.
F-250,
So about that, I was actually, so when I hit that goal, me and my former partner, we had an arrangement where if I hit that goal, I would get like a recruiting vehicle.
Yeah.
People have definitely gotten recruiting vehicles for a lot less than 1,500 accounts, but I got that one. It was like an $85,000, $90,000 truck, something that I don't really care about cars. It's not something that I would probably spend money on like that. But I was slightly nervous because I got it like 2 weeks before we went on our date. I loved it, but I was like, dude, this chick's going to think I'm a douche. Like just showing up in this like 8-inch lifted F-250. She knows I do summer sales and I'm a college dropout. So what's up?
Yeah. I mean, I had never been in just like that lifted of a car. I just remember thinking like, how am I going to get into this? And I'm pretty sure you kind of helped me into it because it was pretty high up there. But anyway, I feel like we kind of hit it off. I was super excited that you wanted to go get Thai food. And then I, was just thinking, okay, this guy's a foodie. He's down to try stuff because, I think about that kind of stuff. I'm like, just say we ended up together and I want to go get sushi, and you're like, I hate sushi. And I'm like, come on, bro. But anyway, super fun. Got Thai food in Salt Lake, I think at a place called Sawadi or something like that. And then I remember you talking about like moving to Florida potentially. And I was like, oh, I don't know if I ever want to move to a super humid place. And I don't know. I was just hesitant, I guess, of, and then you said you liked fishing, and I'm like, oh, I don't really like fishing, but you know, we were having fun though. So I was like, we'll see where this goes. And then we went axe throwing, both our first time. And
You were significantly better
I
than I
kind of
was.
killed you. Yeah. Not killed you, but yeah, I was surprised with my skills. But anyway, I was excited though, because after that you wanted to continue the date. You're like, you want to go get ice cream? And I'm like, oh, I guess he likes me. Let's keep going. Yeah. So we didn't know about this ice cream place, but it ended up being like a vegan ice cream place.
Dude, it was
And then-
garbage. I don't remember what it was called, but I wouldn't go back.
Yeah. But anyways, it was super fun. Loved our first date. So I don't remember making you wait, but I guess I did. And I think it was probably a good thing to make you work for it a little bit, because
Yeah, it definitely made me more interested.
Yeah. But yeah, like you said, we were both in a good spot to get serious, and people had like submitted just like ideas for us to talk about on the podcast, kind of like my perspective of our dating and your perspective.
Okay.
So I don't know if you want to talk about like maybe me being forward and how you felt about that,
yes.
or I don't
Okay.
know.
So,
yeah.
So my initial perspective was I felt like I had just done something kind of cool, like the 1,500 accounts, but I didn't know how to explain to her without coming across like pompous or arrogant that I had just done something really cool, like broke the all-time record without like, I just didn't know how to explain it to her without sounding like a douche, honestly. So there was this thing called Door to Door Con that was happening, and I was going to be speaking at it. It's just like this convention where a bunch of door-to-door companies go. It's like you get the top people in the industry can earn this award called the Golden Door.
Yeah.
And it's very difficult to earn.
Yep.
And then I was speaking at like a panel where people would do a Q&A with me. So I thought to myself, okay, if I can get this girl to come to this, she can kind of see that I'm a big deal in this space without me really having to brag about myself.
Yeah.
So I like tried hard to get her to come with me, and she didn't want to come.
I think
at
you
first.
asked me like 5 different times. I swear. It was a lot. And I think honestly, looking back, I think I was so hesitant just because it was so expensive. I remember you telling me it was expensive to go.
Yeah.
But you were going to pay for me, but I was like, okay, well, what if we don't end up working out? This guy pays $500 a ticket for me to go to this. And I was just like, oh, I don't know. It's intense. It just felt like an intense date, but like an intense step.
Yeah.
But I was also kind of intrigued too. And you were super convincing, which isn't surprising because, you know, you're in sales. So.
But anyways, we go. I think that you kind of had your mind blown a little bit. Like you heard some motivational speakers. You saw me do my thing. And you were probably kind of like, who the hell is this guy?
Yeah. I had no idea. Like you said, I think it would have been hard to really encapsulate who, I don't know, like you said, who you are as a person, what it took to get there, what 1,500 accounts actually meant in that industry. It was just really cool to see you in your element and to talk about your experience. And it was honestly pretty attractive. Like just seeing you in that arena, I was like, wow, this guy really did something cool. And it was hard. And it just made me super proud of you, but also like more intrigued to get to know you. And
so in essence, my plan worked.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Your plan worked. I was like kind of dumbfounded. I feel like at that point, I was holding back a little bit, and I felt like he seems like he really likes me because you were holding my hand, you know, walking around. You were telling people, I feel like that you were dating me, like that we were, I don't remember if you said
I said we were going on dates.
Yeah, yeah. Like you didn't say girlfriend for sure, but it felt like you were, I don't know, proud that I was there. But part of me was like, oh, does he just want to look, you know, like he has a girl? You know, I just didn't know if I was actually the special girl. I mean, I wanted to be, but but yeah, Ed Milet spoke. Honestly, that was such a cool experience. I loved hearing him speak too. Like that was life-changing. I don't know. I I didn't even know who Ed Milet was. So I'm super, super grateful that I was able to go to that because that really was like a once in a lifetime opportunity. And then we ended up getting married too. So, but yeah, I think from my perspective, like I said, once that happened, I was like, okay, I think I'm gonna go for this, you know? And I would say sometimes in my own life, people have said that I'm intimidating too. Like, I think I can be a pretty intense person. Like, once I decide something, I go pretty hard. And I was like, okay, so I wonder how he's going to take this. But I think soon after that, I asked you if you wanted to be exclusive.
Yep.
And I had no idea though that you were still talking to other girls, which I found that out later.
Yep.
But
I was. Hey, we weren't official yet. So, but
Yeah.
you were my favorite. Like you were at the top. You were at the top of the roster.
you mean are? No, I'm just kidding.
You are. But yeah, there was a girl I was going on dates with, and she, like, we'd left things like pretty okay, but then she like left out of town. Like she went out of the country for a minute, and you and I just clicked at a different level, and I like wasn't ready for exclusivity, but I recognized, like, I saw that look in your eye, and I knew, dude, if I say no to this girl right now, she's going to be highly offended and I'm going to blow it. So I know that this is what I want. And so I said yes.
Yep.
Yep.
Super glad you said yes, because I don't know. I really don't know what it would have happened.
I know what would have happened.
I mean, it probably would have hurt my ego a little bit. And
It would have.
And I'm like, oh, maybe he doesn't really like me as much as I thought or whatever. But I was proud of myself for going for what I wanted. Because I will say I haven't always been that way with dating. And I was like, I'm ready to get married. And I think at that point, were we 28?
I don't know.
It was something like that. I just think both of us were pretty ready to settle down, you know? And like you said, we were prepared with things that we had gone through. And so I'm like, hey, if he doesn't want to date, then he doesn't want to date. Like, let's just see what happens. And so once you said yes, I was also pretty forward and I kissed you first. So like, what was your perspective on that?
I was surprised. I was surprised
Yeah.
both. Like, you kissed me and then you asked to be exclusive. It wasn't
Oh,
like, it
I
wasn't the
couldn't
reverse.
remember. Okay,
Yeah.
so I kissed you first.
You kissed
and
me
then,
first.
Okay.
And then you said that, then you asked me if we wanted to be exclusive.
Okay.
And I was surprised because I've never been with a girl that was that forward before. But I didn't dislike it. I thought it was cool. Like, she knows what she wants and she's going for it.
So it didn't intimidate you.
No.
That's good.
But it put me on, it was, I guess it like put me on notice that if I'm not ready to jump when you're ready to jump, then,
Yeah.
you know, I don't know.
Well, I remember we kissed at my parents' door, and then I remember like you wanted to cuddle like while watching a movie, and I was still kind of like prudish after coming home from a mission, and I was like, oh, I don't know, like if we should. Yeah, but it's just funny looking back on it. But yeah, I mean things escalated pretty quick, like because it was during 2020 when we met, which was January. It was like right before the pandemic.
Yeah, we spent the whole lockdown together.
Yep.
Yep.
And so it felt like a condensed version of us getting to know each other because you were on your off season, so you weren't working.
No.
And so we spent, I mean, a ton of time together, which was really good though, because I felt like we didn't need as much time, you know, to kind of get to the point where we really realized that we wanted to get married.
Yeah. So at this point, it's like not quite spring, but it's like the end of winter. And at this point in my dating in the past, usually like I find somebody to date or like I find some sort of connection in January and then I leave in April. And it's like usually the relationship's too new for me to like continue it on for another 4 months without me being there.
Yeah.
And I was like, dude, that's not happening this time. So I was like, do you want to come out to Oklahoma? Because I still was going to do one more summer in Oklahoma.
Selling pest control.
Yeah, selling pest control.
And I was pretty, you know, nervous because we knew we wanted to get married, but I kind of wanted to get engaged if I was going to move out to Oklahoma. And I ended up, you know, getting my own apartment and being out there during the pandemic while you were selling, which was kind of crazy. But I understood like why you wanted us to not do long distance. And it makes sense now. And I'm super glad that I was able to go out there and stuff because I feel like we got a lot closer. We made a lot of really good memories.
Yeah.
So
I feel like from that experience, you got to understand that side of me a lot better than just hearing about it. Because you wouldn't have been able to see what my world is like.
Well, it was so cool.
Without seeing it.
Yeah, it was so cool to see Oklahoma, which actually is a lot prettier than I even knew. I had never been, obviously. So, not obviously, but anyway. I feel like Oklahoma's just not a state that a lot of people go to. But yeah, like I remember going to the doors with you, and it was really cool, like you said, to see you in your element and just get to experience that together and see my first bed bug job.
That was fun. That was funny watching you like get grossed out by it.
Yeah, I felt really bad in that moment because I didn't even realize that I had said, did I say ew?
Yeah, you said ew.
Oh my gosh. We were at a customer's house and Josh picked up one of the bed bugs and like squashed it and you could see the blood. And I was so shocked because you hear about bed bugs and I don't know, just to actually see it.
I guess, and on the flip side of that, I'm like completely desensitized to any of that
definitely.
kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Like for people who aren't aware, this is like a little gross, but bed bugs have a certain smell to them. Roaches have a certain smell to them. Rats that are decaying have a certain smell to them. And I know what every single one of them
So
smells
nasty.
like.
Oh my gosh.
And it's a smell that you never forget. So, but anyways, I'm like immune to gross stuff. And I just like, I think for a moment I forgot you were there. I squish it, it pops, and then I hear you say, ew, right next to this lady we're standing next to that I'm getting ready to sell this bed bug thing to.
Yeah.
So me squishing it is like me kind of doing like a little bit of I guess it's like me amplifying the problem. Like if she sees me squish it, it's like, makes it very real. This thing's feeding off of you. It's kind of gross.
Yeah, it's like their blood that they just hid.
Yeah. So it's like a part of how, when you're in sales, you want to bring emotion into the sale, and it was just a part of the process.
Yep. So we got engaged before we went to Oklahoma, though.
We did.
Yeah, we got engaged in Washington State, which was really, really nice. And we went to this really cool spot called Alki Beach overlooking the Seattle skyline. And Josh had written a really sweet poem of kind of like all of our memories. And anyway, just said the poem and
Popped down on the knee.
Popped down, and that was history, I guess. So
Yep. And then we went out to Oklahoma like immediately after.
Yep. So we were there for the whole summer, and I was not working.
Nope.
Well, I was working out and planning our wedding, pretty much.
At this point, us starting Zunex, our company now, was already kind of in my mind and rolling.
I don't remember you talking about it though in Oklahoma, but
No, I did. When we first got there, I was beginning to have phone calls with my former partner about what it would look like me getting bought out, because I was in a minority position at UrbanX in
Yeah.
Oklahoma. So
Okay.
we were talking about it.
yeah, it was just like, I don't remember you saying the name or
Oh,
I think
we didn't
you know
have
what I'm
the name
saying.
picked
Like
out.
you didn't have the nitty gritty details. That's all I
All
meant.
I knew
Yeah.
is that once I had a wife that would unconditionally love me, I was ready to do my own thing.
Once you had a wife that was down for all your crazy ideas and
Yep.
down to move and do all that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so
So
we-
fast forwarding a little bit,
Yeah.
because this like we could go so in depth on
when we
like
got
our beginning
married
dating.
was October.
Yeah, October.
2020.
So still in the pandemic.
Yep.
Caitlin wanted to go to, was it Bora Bora or no, Bali? You really wanted to go to Bali
On our honeymoon. Yeah.
So at this point, I've sold my position at my former company, and I'm not really a big spender, but I decided I wanted to ball out on our honeymoon. I had been to Africa in the past with my family due to some other circumstances, and I was like, dude, I've always wanted to take my wife on I've always wanted to have a safari honeymoon. And Caitlin was like a little unsure at first, but I feel like I finally kind of convinced you. Or I convinced you I wasn't going to change my
Yeah.
mind.
I remember seeing on your Hinge profile, it was like looking for my +1 to take to Africa. Cause I think you were planning on going that year anyways, even
Yeah, I was.
if you didn't get married. And so I remember seeing that and I was thinking, okay, this dude like wants to travel, which that's like my number one, I don't know, passion, I guess, favorite thing to do. And so super intrigued by the idea to go to Africa, but I was also like really just I knew it would be a crazy, crazy trip, and I kind of wanted to just relax. You know, that's just like what people think with their honeymoon. So, but when you told me that it was your dream, and I was thinking this probably really is like a once in a lifetime opportunity because it's expensive for one, but I
So-
also was just like,
Yeah.
I'm here for the ride too. So
So we went on a 14-day honeymoon where we spent 7 days on safari and then 7 days in Zanzibar. That was honestly probably the coolest thing that we've done before we kind of really had to like cut down on expenses while
hence,
we're building
welcome
up.
to the zoo.
Yep.
Just kidding.
So, but anyways, the initial part definitely wasn't relaxing. It was exhausting because you're so like mentally focused in on trying to see all the animals you can see that it's honestly pretty tiring.
Well, and the
and
time
the jet lag
difference
is insane.
Yeah, because I remember by day 4, that's when I really felt like I was getting more used to it, and we had already been on the safari for 3 days.
Yep.
And like you said, seeing the animals in the wild, like you can't even explain the feeling that you have when you see like a giraffe eating like an acacia tree, like the leaves or whatever.
Yeah.
Like I remember seeing the giraffe come out into the fog for the first time and he was just eating, and I was just like, this is the coolest thing I've ever seen in my life. Like it was just so peaceful, and the feeling, like people say that I feel like about Africa, like the feeling that you're, I don't know,
the
like the
spirit of
spirit of
Africa.
Africa. Like, yeah, that was so real.
Yeah.
And I was obsessed. I was like, this is amazing.
Yeah, Africa is definitely a special place for us. We finished the honeymoon with a more relaxing portion of it towards the very end. We went to Zanzibar, which is an island just off of Tanzania. And
Should we say any of our honeymoon horror stories, or should we save that for later?
we can save that for later.
They're
They're pretty embarrassing on my part.
There really weren't that many though, but you know. But people say that your honeymoon is a good indicator of what your marriage is going to look like.
And dang, if that's not true.
Because I remember hearing that, and then once we finished our honeymoon, I was thinking, you know what? This is gonna be the jungle up in here with me and Josh. Like we're
So
gonna
quick
Yeah.
little story. When we first got there, when we first like got off the airplane, our guide wasn't there. Like he wasn't there for like 45 minutes, and I didn't like have my phone had just broken, and I didn't have like Caitlin didn't have like the itinerary, and so I was trying to figure out how to get this guy's phone number, and I was like horrified that it. Like, dude, what if I just got scammed and I just paid this company thousands of dollars and this dude just never shows up? Like,
Yeah.
And so it's like for the first 45 minutes, I'm super stressed, or we're stressed, thinking, dude, where is this guy? Like, we're in the middle of Africa. And then at the very end of the honeymoon, we accidentally almost missed our flight. We forgot how many days we'd been there.
Yeah, I don't know how we did that. But
I don't know, but
yeah.
we checked into our last hotel. We accidentally checked in a day late. We didn't
Yeah.
realize that.
Yeah.
We like took a nap and then realized, oh crap, our flight leaves tonight.
Yeah.
And then we had to leave like immediately after.
Yep.
But wow, like Zanzibar is pretty wild too. Freddie Mercury had a house there, like growing up. He grew up there, I think, or something like that. And they had some wild food. It's just like a
we both
completely
had
different vibe.
Never been. Well, did you? I guess in South Africa, but did you go to the Indian Ocean?
No.
Yeah, so we both hadn't like touched the Indian Ocean. I remember the first day we got there, the water felt like a hot tub,
Yeah, it was pretty wild.
the ocean, and then we got fried.
Yeah, we got
because-
guided out by these locals who, just guided us out super far past all of these like what are they called? Sea urchins that you
Yeah.
can't really see very well.
Yeah, and they showed us like pufferfish and starfish, and
then they ask you for $400 right before they bring you back.
they're like, "We're gonna guide you out, but
Then you're
got-
gonna pay us to have you guide us back.
Yeah. But I just remember how insanely hot it was. Like the sun was super, super intense in Zanzibar.
Yeah, I've never been that burnt in my life.
Yeah.
Ever.
And I remember too, it was the election during that time too, when we were
Yep.
on our honeymoon. Yep.
We'll keep politics out of this for the moment, but we are political.
So funny. That was amazing though. I loved that so much. I think about that all the time. And I'm so excited to like eventually go back to Africa with like our kids and
And then boom, newsflash. 2 weeks after we're home, we realized that you're pregnant.
Was it 2 weeks after? I feel like we didn't find out till later.
No.
It was a month after. Yeah. Because we went to Cancun with your family for Thanksgiving, and that's when we found out. So it was because we got married
guess it
October
was.
23rd. Yeah. So it
Yep.
was a month. Yeah, I would
Whoops.
say that was intense. I think we both wanted to start our family pretty soon just because we were older-ish.
Yeah,
And
definitely
so-
like not unwanted, but definitely wasn't necessarily what we were planning on.
Yep. And so that was insane. Took a pregnancy test in Mexico. We took a few. And I remember I left it on the counter and it looked negative. So we're like, okay, we're good.
Then we fall back asleep.
We fell back asleep, wake up,
and it was positive.
2 lines. I was like, all right, we're freaking doing this. So I would say our life has been pretty insane. Like ever since we got married, it was just like, all right.
So from that standpoint, we are starting a family.
We
I
moved.
no longer we moved to Seattle,
Yep.
and I no longer have like a job where I'm getting money from. We've
Yeah.
decided to open up our own company. We have just enough money to put it in the checking account to get this thing up and rolling, which flash forward, there wasn't enough money to get us up and running. Things always cost more than you think they're going to. And then we have enough money to try to live off of for a year before I start taking up money.
Seattle is more expensive.
And Seattle's more expensive.
I mean, and we're gonna have a new baby, new
Yeah.
business. It was so many new things that, looking back, like I've talked to some of my family members, they're like, I don't know how you guys did that. Like you had so many new things at once, like a new marriage, that no wonder it was hard. Like, I don't know.
I guess I'm curious. What did you think? What did you think about that? Like that time period of our life, like specifically us having like a safety net with UrbanX and then me leaving it as soon as we're married and starting our own thing. Like were you nervous about that at all? Because we didn't have an income coming in for a very long time after that.
Yeah, I was pretty nervous, but I feel like I had so much trust and faith in what you wanted to do, just because I remember you telling me that you had such a strong feeling that we should start our life in Washington. And I trusted you. And I was like, you know what? If he has this strong of a feeling, maybe this really is where we're supposed to be. And I don't know. I never wanted to like shoot down your dreams because I know that you've always wanted to have your own thing and to really you've just always had that entrepreneurship spirit. And I remember you talking about when you were working in Oklahoma and you were the minority partner, I just could tell you wanted to be a part of it just a little bit more. And I remember you saying like, I don't see myself in that business. I don't see my reflection and I want that, And so I remember you telling me that. And I was thinking I had never, I guess, been around somebody who was so passionate about like their path. And so I knew if I married you, it would kind of be up and down, and it would be like blind faith almost at times. But I was excited too, because I kind of do like crazy. I'm like, maybe, and that kind of like segues a little bit into, cause I just wanted to talk about like why we chose the name for Welcome to the Zoo, but like, what was our like motivations to start this podcast? And I don't know if you want to talk about that now.
I think that where the motivation came from for Welcome to the Zoo, we thought about some other names that just didn't really click. But dude, our whole life is just freaking nuts. I feel like us as a family, we have like this 5-year vision and this 10-year vision that we can see pretty clearly, like how it's going to be in the future. Mm-hmm. But then we have like this seasonal vision. Like we know that, for example, this summer, we just opened up our next office in Utah. It's going to be pretty wild. It's like we have structure to our life, but then there's also a lot of freedom in it where we can kind of do whatever it is that we want to do. Like if we decided that we wanted to go visit your sister Holly in Nashville for like a week, because I had to go out there for work, like we could just do it at the drop of a hat, or we could, this last fall, we were looking for a new office to open up. So we decided, and people probably will think this is nuts, but with a 2-year-old, we decided to rent an RV and drive all the way across from Utah to Tennessee, through South Carolina, down through Florida, through Alabama, Mississippi, like Texas, and then back. Like, we did it for like a month, and it was wild because we had a lot to see in a very small amount of time. But
Yeah, with a 2-year-old.
yeah, with the 2-year-old, which honestly, that was probably one of my most favorite trips ever, just because of some of the experiences that we had. But our life is just nuts.
Yep. So that's kind of, the name why we chose it. And obviously, the ZU is Zunika, our last name. But I think that's what was so intriguing to me. I just knew, like I said, with marrying you, that we would travel and that we would live a full life and an adventurous life. And that was super exciting to me. And I think maybe to some people, they'd be like, wow, I want more structure with my husband's work. I don't want to have to move a lot, because there's good and bad, like you said, with everything. Because of like how hard you work and what you've been able to build, and you're still building it and in Utah now, but we have freedom, and that's super cool to me too, because you've been able to at times probably be more of a hands-on dad than a lot of maybe dads get the opportunity to be, who have a full-time, like 9 to 5 type job, And so there's always going to be good and bad, I think, with everything. And I'm sure life's just going to get crazier and crazier. But for me, starting the podcast, I really wanted something outside of motherhood, just because I've been so wrapped up into that pretty much right after we got married,
Yeah.
And it scared me a little bit, just because I felt like, luckily we had dated and it was during the pandemic, like we said. And so I felt like we really got to know each other from January to October of the year 2020. But it did make me a little bit sad, just because, as most women know, when you go through pregnancy and postpartum, you have a lot of emotions, and it's just a lot of ups and downs. And I felt like I was scared that you would judge me or think of me differently, like, who did I marry kind of thing, because we really didn't get that newlywed phase, just us. We kind of just went straight into having a child. And I think it was obviously totally meant to be, and I'm super happy that it happened. But it did make me nervous, I guess. And so I feel like we've been able to navigate it the best we could, and we've done a really good job, I think, navigating marriage and putting in the effort, going to therapy, and really figuring out who we are individually, but who we are together, and raising our son throughout all of that too. But anyway, I just really wanted something that I could do outside of motherhood, where we could connect with other people as well. And we could connect with other parents, other couples, and talk about hardships and be open, and that's something in my life that, just like, when I'm able to have these deeper conversations, it just brings me a lot of joy. Like, I just love to connect. And so that's a huge reason why I wanted to start this and do this with you. And I think we really do have a cool story. And like you said, I think we have similarities, yes, but I think we balance out each other pretty well. And so
Yeah, I agree with that.
it's really cool to kind of have that dynamic in the podcast, I guess, and also in our relationship.
I think one other aspect, sorry, were you?
Oh, no,
still go?
you can, yeah.
I think one other aspect, and this isn't a podcast that's going to be overtly religious all the time, but growing up in, like, I guess in today's world, it really kind of seems like there's not really a whole lot of positivity when it comes to LDS. Like, when it comes to the LDS religion, there's a lot of anti stuff out there right now. A lot of people that are having these faith transitions, and look, we're not judging anybody, but
Yeah.
it doesn't. I haven't heard of any podcast where there's couples who are outwardly LDS. And just to put it out there, Caitlin and I are not Molly Mormons or Peter Priesthoods. Like, we're not perfect LDS members. We do our best.
Nobody is, but yeah.
Yeah, we do our best. We both are RMs. I serve my mission in Orlando, Florida. And we try to get stuff out of church when we take our toddler to sacrament meeting, and he's being wild. But honestly, it feels like we're fighting for our life, for spiritual nourishment sometimes. But
Yeah.
I guess another part of it is just to put positivity out there, and show that you don't have to be this super uptight, stuffy Mormon couple. You know, like there's nothing wrong with being a little bit more real and letting people see that side of us.
Yeah, definitely. I agree.
I think that our faith, and part of the reason why I brought that in is our faith has been the bedrock of what we've built our relationship off of. Even though you and I aren't like, we're not perfect and we don't pretend to be.
Yep.
Having that foundation has allowed us to build what we've built. It's allowed us, when we've gone through ups and downs, which there has been some, it's allowed us to never get to a point where we even think about divorce or we ever think about like super negatively about the other person. Because newsflash, building a business from scratch and being pregnant at the same time, probably not a good idea.
10 out of 10 would not recommend.
Probably not a good idea. You
Yeah.
are in for an emotional roller coaster, financial roller coaster, and just all sorts of stuff.
But we're literally doing it again because I'm pregnant.
Yeah.
Surprise. No, most people already know.
So this podcast is a little bit of a peek into our life. Hopefully we can share some goodness out there and some stuff that people can relate to. We don't want it to just be us talking about ourselves. Like, I think we're interesting. I don't know if we're that interesting, but I mean, I think we're cool.
Well, I was just going to say, like, I was talking with one of my friends and she was saying, you know, when she listens to all these different podcasts, it's like, I don't know, it's like reading a new book almost, you know? And she was just like really pushing me to go for it because she was like, you don't know the kind of impact that you could have. Or just, you know, it's like a new TV episode, right? Like you think it's so saturated, which I do think podcasting right now is. A lot of people are doing it. But if you always thought that way, you would never go for something that you really felt good about or you dreamt about, right? Because you're scared of not being as good as others or whatever. And so when she said that, I was like, yeah, maybe we'll be this new TV show, right? This new episode that people can enjoy and learn from, and we can learn from other people and grow. And I do agree with you totally with religion and how we can just be a positive space and kind of talk about our own individual journeys and even just our own spirituality and our relationship with God. I'm just really excited to talk about those things. And yeah, I do feel like there are a lot of podcasts out there right now that are kind of just a little bit more anti LDS, I don't know, or just ex-Mormon podcast, which is fine. I do think there's a space for it, you know, but I think there's also a space for us to talk about our own experiences and how it's led us to stay strong in what brings us true happiness. And like you said, what's helped us keep our marriage in a good place. And obviously, like you said, we can always be better, do better. And that's what we try to do every single day. But it is a huge part of our lives, you know? So it's definitely not going to be a religious podcast, but I'm excited to like, you know, touch on things and bring that into it as well. And I'll just say one last thing. I will say there's, you know, a couple podcasts that I've listened to from the beginning and they were super inspirational for me, you know? And I remember one of the podcasts I listened to, The Bad Broadcast, she's always been like really supportive in like messaging me back and just, I don't know. And just hearing her story, how she talked about, she didn't really feel like she had, I don't know, a passion. And like, that's something that I've looked at with you and I've been in awe at of just how amazing you are and what it has taken to get to where you are today. You've had to honestly jump through a lot of hoops. You still do to this day. You've had to go for things that not a lot of people would go for, starting a business from scratch. And so I just feel like there's been so many times in my life where I did not go for things because I have this side of me that's really, I don't know, just doesn't feel like I can do it, or just the perfectionist tendencies that I have took over. And I didn't want to take that leap or that jump. And Maddie kind of talked about that and how she just went for it basically during the pandemic because she never found something that she was super passionate about. And so I just want anyone out there that's listening to this, if you have a dream and you feel like deep in your heart that this is something that God wants you to do and that you really feel good about, then just go for it. Like, let the haters hate, let the, you know, voices in your head just try to block it out and really just go for the things that you want to go for, because you really only get one life. Mm-hmm. You know, and what are you going to make of it? And I am proud of us for what we've made of our life so far, together and individually. And I'm just excited to see where this goes.
Me too.
Okay. Anything else, or are you good?
No, I mean, I think that pretty much wraps it up.
Okay.
And welcome to the zoo.
We're super excited, and thanks for listening.